Okay, Sare join কৰিছে, we can start.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Today is 24th July 2021 and it is time 4:10 by my watch. So we are going to start today's webinar on good governance in India, challenges and prospects. Has been organized by the Department of Political Science, Borholla College, in collaboration with Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, and has been moderated by IQSC Borholla College. Respected Principal Sir of Borholla College, respected Dr. Musahari Sir, HOD, Department of Political Science, Borholla University, our resource person, Dr. A.K. Mishra Sir, Professor in Political Science, State Nodal Officer, Director of Higher and Technical Education, Government of Arunachal Pradesh, Dr. Prabodh Sharma, President, Center for Ethnic Study and Research, Dr. Dipen Das, Organizing Secretary of today's webinar, as well as Assistant Professor of Department of Political Science, Radha Govinda Borua College, Dr. Rana Bora, IQSC Coordinator and Moderator of today's webinar, as well as Assistant Professor of Department of Geography, Borholla College, most honorable faculty members of different departments of Borholla College, including the non-teaching staff, Dr. Zukesh Das, Technical Coordinator of today's webinar, and last but not the least, most honorable participants of today's webinar. At the very outset, I offer my sincere gratitude and best wishes to all of you. As we know that during this COVID-19 pandemic time, we are completely detached from each other. So in such situation, we have no other alternative than online sources. So today's webinar is an initiative that has been taken by our department for deliberation and discussion on a very important topic, and the topic is good governance in India, challenges and prospects. We know that good governance is not only important from the administrative point of view, but also from the development point of view, it is equally important. Because without good governance, we cannot achieve development, we cannot attain development, and the future development cannot be distributed equally among all people without good and proper governance. And in such a COVID-19 situation, we are always seeking for a good governance in health sector, education sector. So I think today's webinar has been organized on a very important topic, and our participants will be highly beneficial from this webinar. With this hope, I'm starting this webinar, and I request Mirazul Hussain Borloy Sir, Assistant Coordinator of today's webinar, as well as Assistant Professor of Department of Political Science, Borholla College, to deliver his welcome speech.
Thank you, Dr. Sibani Fukon. Today is a very precious day of our department. Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to all of you to this national level webinar entitled Good Governance in India, Challenges and Prospects, organized by Department of Political Science, Borholla College, in collaboration with Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati, Assam. Here, I want to give you a bird's eye view on our institution. Respected Sir, Madam, we want to let you know that Borholla College is situated in the southern part of Assam, near Assam-Nagaland border. It is the only higher educational institution in the entire region. Borholla College was established in 1990 with the help of some benevolent persons. The demography of this region is cosmopolitan. Apart from agriculture, oil and natural gas and tea are the main resources of this region. Ethnic diversity is another characteristic of this area. The institution has been catering co-education since its inception and academic performance of this institution under Dibrugarh University is praiseworthy. The institution is basically a arts stream college and a total number of 8 departments with 25 faculty members has been providing higher education to the students. It is important to mention that political science as a honor subject was introduced from the very beginning of the institution, and over the years, the department have showed good performance in academic level. The department in its recent past have undertaken many programs for the benefit of the students and faculty members of colleges. During the first wave of COVID-19 pandemic, the department had organized a national level webinar on the prospects and challenges in India during COVID-19 pandemic, and also arranged all Assam level student seminar contest under undergraduate level. Today, we have organized a national level webinar on the topic entitled Good Governance in India, Prospects and Challenges. As we all know, that good governance is the key matter of any democratic nation through which happiness index of people can be maximized. To highlight on this very topic, the Department of Political Science have organized this webinar. Therefore, on behalf of Political Science Department, I want to welcome first inaugurator of this webinar and our Honorable Principal Sir, Viren Dotto. Welcome, sir, to this digital platform. Next, I welcome Organizing Secretary, Dr. Dipen Das, sir. I would also welcome Dr. Jugesh Das, Technical Coordinator of this webinar, to this platform. I want to welcome Dr. Anabora, Moderator of this webinar. I am very happy to welcome guest of honor, Dr. Janil Musahari, sir, HOD, Department of Political Science, Borholla University, Kukrajhar. We are very fortunate enough to welcome our honorable resource person of this webinar, Professor Dr. A.K. Mishra, sir, State Nodal Officer, NSS, and Director of Higher and Technical Education, Government of Arunachal Pradesh. We welcome our dear colleague as well as respected participants who are joining on this digital platform from every nook and corner of India and from different parts of the world. Thank you, sir. Now I handed over this platform to Dr. Sidani Fukon, coordinator of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirazun Hussain Borloy, sir, for your welcome speech. Now I want to request our Honorable Principal, sir, to inaugurate today's webinar with his inaugural speech.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected resource person, Dr. A.K. Mishra, Professor in Political Science and State Nodal Officer, NSS, Director of Higher and Technical Education, Government of Arunachal Pradesh, and Honorable Guest of Honor, Dr. Janil Musahari, HOD of Department of Political Science, Borholla University, Kukrajhar, and respected participants and other technical persons. I extend a very sincere welcome to all participants in this webinar, and a most welcome to our esteemed resource persons and guests of honors. I am happy that the Department of Political Science takes the initiative to organize a national webinar in association with Center for Ethnic Study and Research, Guwahati, Assam, and IQSC Borholla College. The webinar topic is Good Governance in India, challenges and prospects. The topic is very relevant and interesting one. I assume that the resourceful resource person will definitely give us enormous knowledge, and everyone it will be benefited from this national webinar. We are very glad to inform recently we have organized more than 4 webinars from different departments of college and one week faculty development program from Women's Cell, which helping and uplifting their educational environment prevailing around us. I hereby also thank the organizers for their commendable efforts. In the entire Borholla area of Jorhat district of Assam, Borholla College is the one and only higher education institute, and it was established in 1990 and affiliated to Dibrugarh University. I am sure that we have successfully in fulfilling the dream of the students as well as parents and agri and board area of entire Borholla. Well, the unexpected plague of the deadly infection and coronavirus trembled the whole world and changed the whole education system for offline mode to online mode. And so it at least with these few words, I conclude my speech, and I believe that it will be a successful completion of this event. Thank you. Stay and safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Principal Sir, for your inaugural speech and best wishes for us. And now I want to request our Honorable Guest of Honor, Dr. Kani Musahari Sir, HOD, Department of Political Science, Borholla University, to speak a few words for our today's webinar and on the topic that good governance in India. We are very glad to get Sir as our guest of honor today.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Shivani. And our
Good afternoon, sir.
respected resource person, Dr. A.K. Mishra, Professor in Political Science and State Nodal Officer, NSS, Government of Higher Education, Higher Technical Education, Arunachal Pradesh. Then specially thanks to Dipanda, Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati, Principal Sir, all the technical staff, coordinators of the Borholla College, and my dear friends, participants. So it is a great privilege for me to speak a few words in front of a august, learned resource person and all professors of different colleges. So first of all, when we talk about good governance, so it is a topic which I always remember in my mind whenever I used to visit government offices. So we used to teach our students what is good governance. The students were very much well informed about the process of good governance, which means transparency, which means responsiveness and delivery of goods and services. So there are a lot of criteria. These are the basic criteria which we have. We speak about the good governance. But if you visit certain government offices, especially government offices, if we ignore the private office, which they have a different type of delivery of goods and services, which is very different with the government offices. So we see the opposite things. So there are a lot of challenges in order to proceed the process of goods and services. There is lack of accountability. There is completely lack of transparency. There is no responsive at all. And this we are facing, even though we know all these things. Being a student of political science, very much well equipped with such kind of processes of good governance. But in spite of that, we have been unable to do anything to bring justice in the society. So what does we do in this context? So let us remember in 2020, when Narendra Modi announces the 24th of March, if I am not wrong, the total lockdown of the whole country. So we, people like you and me, who are well equipped with modern gadgets like the technology, mobiles, Androids, etc., access of internets. We have organized hundreds and thousands of webinars like this in order to connect ourselves with different parts of the country. But remember, what about those people who are living in the village, disconnected with internet, disconnected completely with the governance? So forget about good. They are devoid of any kind of governance. So they are detached from every part of governance. Forget about other features of accountability, policy, independence, etc., etc. So they don't have any governance as such during those lockdown period. So in this context, some of the concerned citizens, professors, teachers like you and me, try to connect with those stranded people. I will rather say stranded, because they are completely detached with the governance. They are stranded, what to do, what to eat, especially about the daily wages, daily laborers. Forget about those migrant laborers who are facing humanitarian crisis during those lockdown time. So especially those villages, they are detached from governance. When we try to help a little, as much as possible within the capacity of our own. So the civil societies, the people like you and me, becomes the governance for those people, especially during the lockdown time. So this very topic, which is pertinent, and I thank the Borholla College Department of Political Science for choosing this particular topic, which has many challenges as well as which has many prospects. If we adhere to the ethics of governance, if we adhere to the ethics of human values. So governance as such has detached from this ethics, humanity, responsiveness, and responsibility. So what shall we do in this context? We have rules, we have regulations, we have rule of law, we have judiciary, we have executives, everything is in place. But when it comes to deliberation of good governance, especially in the goods and services that you are supposed to get, we never get justice unless you do something. And what should we do to get delivery of these goods and services? The first thing comes to our mind is the speed money. And what is this speed money? Unless you give something, your file doesn't move. The person who is responsible for doing this job, and he has been employed, he has been paid salary, but that's not enough. He wants more because he's going to deliver something for you, but he or she was supposed to do that. So that work ethics, the mindset has to be changed. So unless we do that, unless we change within ourselves, it is difficult to deliver good governance. Unless we respect the human values, it is very difficult to deliver the good governance. So what shall we do in this context? We don't have strong public opinion, and we don't have strong civil societies. And we don't have strong media. Many times media is partial. Especially I'm talking about northeastern states. Our media coverage is not that much circulated in rural areas. It is especially urban based. So people are facing problems, especially in the rural areas. But who cares? People are detached from the governance. Who cares? But especially when we compare to the other developed countries, they have a very sense of civil societies. Their public opinion is very strong. Their media is very strong. But in our case, we have a lot of problems. And if we have to prosper, these challenges has to be reduced. So Jawaharlal Nehru in 1947, in one of the address, he talks about securing social justice, empowerment, employment. And he also talks about efficient delivery of goods and services. So I don't see any change speaking to 1947 to 2021. The same process of lack of social justice when it comes to the rural population. There is no empowerment. We have been talking about women empowerment, but this is just a slogan. And we have been talking about employment. So this employment, when we talk about the good governance, so the corruption comes to our mind. And this is one of the challenges. Corruption is everywhere in our society. It is deep-rooted and it has become part and parcel of the system. We can say social system, we can also say it's a political system. It is a deep-rooted. So nepotism has overthrown the quality. So through the process of nepotism, through the process of corruption, we give bribes, we acquire the jobs, and once he or she join in the office, the first come to our mind or the employee's mind is that I have to recover the money which I have paid as a bribe to get that particular job. And the process of unethical things starts from here. So I will not speak much as we have a renowned resource person, Dr. A.K. Mishra. So I am also still learning, in the process of learning. So I would like to hear much from our resource person, sir. So for me, the prospect, in order to overcome these hurdles, we need to build up a strong civil society. We need to build up a strong public opinion, and we have to sensitize bureaucrats as well as sensitize the general public about the rights and responsibilities. What should we get and what should we do? If we can sensitize this, we can build up a strong society, and if we can build up a strong public opinion, ultimately is good governance. Prospects will be there. Otherwise, Jawaharlal Nehru speaking in 1947, the same thing has not been, still not being achieved in India. So good governance is a very pertinent issue, and we have to sensitize the public as well as the bureaucrats as well as the people. So thank you very much. So over to Shivani.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Musari, sir, thank you very much for your valuable deliberation on the topic good governance. And then I hope that our participants have been benefited from your deliberations. And now I want to request Dr. Dipendas, Organizing Secretary of today's webinar, to introduce our honorable resource person, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shivani Phupon. A very good evening to all of you, respected principals of Borholla College, honorable guest of honor of today's webinar, Professor Janin Musahari sir, HOD Department of Political Science from Borholla University, respected resource person, sir, Professor A.K. Mishra, Directorate of Higher and Technical Education, Government of Arunachal Pradesh, and State Coordinator of NSS Arunachal Pradesh, faculty members of the Department of Political Science, Borholla College, honorable coordinator, assistant coordinator, technical coordinator, and all the faculty members and teaching staff and non-teaching staff of Borholla College, as well as the learned participants. A very warm welcome to all of you from the Center for Ethnic Studies and Research. Now I am going to introduce for you this honorable resource person, Professor A.K. Mishra, sir. Dr. A.K. Mishra has joined as a lecturer in the year 1997 in Arunachal Pradesh and served as a head Department of Political Science in Wangsa Rajkumar Government College, Deomali, with more than 2 decades. He has been selected as an associate of the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, Rashtrapati Niwas, Shimla. He has published 2 books and more than 65 numbers of research papers in both national as well as international journals. He was the principal of Wangsa Rajkumar Government College, Deomali. He was the IGNO coordinator and coordinator of distance education, Rajiv Gandhi University, Itanagar. He was also the member of the Board of Undergraduate Studies, Rajiv Gandhi University, Itanagar. He is also visiting scholar of Patna University. He is also a life member of Indian Institute of Public Administration, Indian Political Science Association, Northeast Indian Historical Association, NEPSA, as well as Indo-American Political Science Association. In appreciation of outstanding performance of the government of Arunachal Pradesh conferred Best Research Award in the year 2012 to Dr. Mishra. In the year 2019, he joined the Directorate of Higher and Technical Education, Government of Arunachal Pradesh as a State Liaison Officer, NSS, and also holding the post of State Nodal Officer, NAC, All India Survey on Higher and Technical Education, etc. He is also the recipient of Arunachal Pradesh State Award on the occasion of Republic Day 2020 by the Governor of Arunachal Pradesh in recognition of the meritorious services rendered by him. He's also having a good number of research work, out of which foreign policy of South Asian countries is very important. And he also published 2 important books, namely Types of Arunachal Pradesh and Imperatives of Regional Cooperation in South Asia. We are very happy for having you with us. Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to request you to start your presentation. And you also given the host so you can share your PPT from your side. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving an introduction. Very good evening, most respected principal of Borholla College, Jorhat, most respected Dr. Janin Musahari sir, Head of the Department, Political Science, Bodoland University, Kokrajhar, our Organizing Secretary, Dr. Dipendas, CESR, whom I associated, and really I praise your contribution which you are doing for the academia of Northeast and Assam in particular. Then coordinator of the seminar, Dr. Shivani Phupon, assistant coordinator, Farida Begum, moderator of the seminar, Rana Bora, then assistant coordinator, Marajul Hossain Bordoloi, technical coordinator, Dr. Jogesh Das, and most learned participants from nook and corner of entire Northeast. I'm very much grateful to the Department of Political Science, Borholla College, and CESR for giving me this opportunity to be with you and share my certain opinions on good governance. And I am very much thankful to our today's guest of honor who have lessened my burden, my task, as because he has a lot of talks about the governance, and he touched almost all the areas of governance which we are facing at the moment in our country. So thank you very much, sir, for your inputs on the topic. And as we know that governance is really very important for each and everyone, and we cannot ignore the importance of governance, particularly during recent times. As we know, good governance emerged as a powerful idea when multilateral and bilateral agencies like World Bank, then United Nations Development Program, OECD, etc., realized that it is a citizen-friendly, citizen-caring, and responsive administration. In absence of good governance, no development scheme can bring any improvement in the quality life of citizens. On the other hand, if the power of the state exercised in improper ways, then the poor will suffer the most, as poor governance generates the and reinforces corruption, poverty, etc. And as our guest of honor has rightly mentioned, that corruption is rampant in our country. And unless or until we are not removing that corruption, then we cannot have a good governance. Even we cannot say about the governance. Many significant efforts or initiatives have been launched to improve the quality of governance over the last few years. Within the introduction of these initiatives, it is indicated that the existing political system is very much, is it coming on a screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, clearly.
Okay, thank you. So governance is really very important, and particularly experience shows that while good governance can help secure human well-being and sustained development, it is equally important to recognize that poor governance could well erode the individual capabilities as well as institutional and community capacities to meet the needs of the sustenance. Good governance will be engine for development in liberalized economy. Musahari sir has rightly mentioned that we have to change our mindset. Unless or until we are not changing our mindset, then we cannot contribute anything regarding this governance or the system. Two elements related to it, that is honesty and transparency, are needed to ensure governance for development. Unless or until we have not honesty in ourselves, all the time we cannot expect anything from the government, from the agencies. Also, we have to introspect ourselves, how we can check, how we can control all these things. So the primary aim of any good state, particularly of a democratic republic like our country, would be to protect the life, liberty, and property of its people. Governance of such a state would also aim at promoting the general well-being of people through provisions of proper healthcare, educational facilities, access to basic needs, amenities like food, water, sanitation, electricity, road communication, etc., etc. Many things are related to it. Particularly, we have seen recently amidst the COVID-19 pandemic that we all witnessing the massive economic slowdown with severe negative effects on the developing and developed economies. This development created a very inconvenient and impractical situation in accepting an edges of neoliberalism that the absence of a state and dominance of market would lead to human development in true sense, or civil society, as Musahari sir has also mentioned, which is now connecting itself with the market, thinking can provide remedial to the problem. So this is also my opinion that our civil society must be vibrant, must be strong to understand their proper right so that they can utilize in proper manner, proper way. Governance emerged as a powerful idea when multilateral and bilateral agencies like World Bank, United Nations Development Program, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, Asian Development Bank, these all, many organizations are related to these. I'm not going to discuss all these things. But particularly in absence of good governance, no development schemes can bring any improvement in the quality life of citizens. On the other hand, if the power of state exercised in improper ways, then the poor will suffer the most. So we have to take care of the poor people, the marginalized people, as because they need that assistance, and that governance generates and reinforces corruption, poverty, etc. So it is essential to strengthen the governance, and it is also the precondition for the to improve the lives of the poor, particularly the poor people. The concept of good governance plays important role in the modern governmental system. We cannot deny it. There is no accepted definitions of the government, and I'm not going to discuss all the definitions of the government here, but there is a divergence of opinion about the meaning of governance between the conservatives and the liberals' thoughts, or the between socialist and the communist. The word good governance derives from the Greek word kunerebo, which means to steer. The dictionary meaning of governance is way of governing. It is the process undertaken by government and non-government agencies, including family, civil members of the civil society, and the other strata of the society. It refers to a process to act or function to exercise authority to regulate affairs of man in a given territory. So good governance implies the process of decision making and its implementation free from abuse or corruption. Here, it talks about the role of media also. As our Musahari sir has mentioned, our media must be watchdog of the democracy. Unless or until they are not playing the fair role to protect the rights and liberty of the people of the or the community of the state or the country, then we cannot think of a good governance. Here, I would like to refer the concept or the idea referred by Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of United Nations. He talks about good governance when he told it perhaps the single most important factor for eradicating poverty and promoting development. If we want to eradicate poverty, if we want to have a development, then we must have good governance. Governance is the exercise of economic, political, and administrative authority to manage accounts affair at all levels. It consists of mechanisms, processes, and institutions through which citizens, groups articulate their interests, exercise their legal rights, meet their obligations, and mediate the differences. So good governance is really the need of the time. But the important aspect is that how we can, have a good governance, how we can introduce. in our country. Good governance is recognized as essential for the success of any organization, and it is considered as more important than ever. Good governance is a widely used term, so it is necessary to understand what governance is. If it includes the exercise of authority in managing the source of a country, the good governance is about making sure that this exercise of power helps to improve the quality of life enjoyed by the citizens of the country. So we cannot ignore the importance of good governance. In modern times, and in a democracy particularly, the term governance connotes the process by which an organization, especially a government, formulates its policy, enacts appropriate laws, implement the related programs, evaluates and modifies them when necessary, changes the laws and programs if needed, and becomes accountable to the stakeholders, citizens, and gets their mandate to govern. I would like to mention here the words of our Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, when he talks about maximum governance, less government. But so far, the things are concerned, we have to ponder upon ideas. At a broader level, governance refers to all process of governing, whether undertaken by a government, market, or network, whether over by a family, by a tribe, formal or informal organization, or territory, or whether through laws, norms, power, or language. It relates to the process of interaction and decision making among the actors involved in a collective problem that lead to the creation, reinforcement, or reproduction of social norms and institutions. Thus, the term governance can be used for all organization, whether it is a formal organization or informal organization, and not just restricted to the government. If we talk about the perspective on the governance, it has manifold. Here, I would like to focus the perspective on governance, and particularly the Indian perspective. So it places at par with the many of the developed countries of the West, despite the country having a traditional society and developing economy. Even at the time of independence, the country in 1947, the horror of partition and its concomitant upheavals were minimized to the extent possible due to the existence of an efficient system of administration, well equipped in the performance of law and order function of the state. With the adoption of the new economic policy by the government of India during the period of the former Prime Minister of India, P.V. Narasimha Rao, India not only became a partner of the ongoing globalization process, but also entered into a new era in the history of administrative reforms. This era, new era particularly, was particularly significant as it witnessed a paradigm shift for the first time after independence, from the Nehruvian philosophy to the socialistic welfare state to a westernized model of development through globalization, liberalization, free market economy, and good governance. There is no standardized recipe for good governance. It is the result of effective learning by the state to cope with the challenges and crises it comes across during its evolution. The key elements of good governance are respect for the rule of law, special care for the disadvantaged and the weaker sections, tolerance and broad-mindedness, which allows people to accept and embrace unity in diversity. Otherwise, we cannot realize all these goals in reality, and we cannot have a better society under the concept of good governance. When we talk about the Indian tradition of good governance, we can cite an example from Rig Veda period. As because the administration units were called as Kul, Gam, Vis, and Rashtra. Gam or the village consisted of the several households, and the similar unit was the family. Sorry, a smaller unit was the family of Gam. The head of the village was known as Gramini. A group of villages constituted a vis under the Vispati, and the numerous vises consisted a jan under the administrative officer called Gopa, and whose represented the king. And the state was a developed form of these all villages. Later it created Janpada, and later the state came into form. So from the government in the Rig Vedic period particularly was monarchical, and the kingship was hereditary, but the kings were benevolent. This is very important. The officers like Senani and Gramini assisted him. He had ministers also, the chief of whom was the Purohita. Two democratic bodies known as Sabha and Samitis controlled the king. King cannot take any arbitrary decision, as because always he was controlled by these two democratic bodies which were functioning very strongly during the ancient period called Sabha and Samiti. The Sabha worked as the council of elders, while the Samiti was a public body. I can cite few examples related to it in our Arunachal Pradesh, in the various tribes, as because it has 26 major tribes and 100 minor tribes, and they have their own village administration system, and that is a vibrant, a strong mechanism to administer their problems related to their village, and they are working. Even in a few of the districts, the chieftaincy system is prevailing, and the chief alone cannot take any decision. He is also assisted by a number of the people who are designated to assist the chief while taking any decision on any matter. So we can compare all those things with our ancient, the period too. And the post-Vedic period witnessed the rise of powerful kingdoms. The form of government in epic age of Ramayana and Mahabharata was monarchical, and public administration was sufficiently developed. The head of the administration was the king, and the ministers and the councillors advised him in matters of governance. There are a lot of things. I am not going to discuss all these things here, but I must like to mention the contribution of Kautilya, who writes in his famous creation Arthashastra, that is a monumental work that encompasses various disciplines of present day social science. According to Kautilya, the system of governance prevailing in ancient times was monarchy, in which the king, called Swami, was the epitome of the state and its administrative system. The state consisted of 7 prakritis, or the organs. The system is called Saptang. Like the Swami, Amatya, Janpada. Swami is the king, Amatya is the minister, Janpada is the territory with settlement of people, Durga, the fortified Durg, capital, the Kosa, the treasury, the Danda, I mean the army, the punishment, and the Mitra, the ally or the friend. These 7 organs, in fact, reflect the concept of the state and administration being taken as an inseparable entity which fostered the existence of the state itself. So, Kautilya's Arthashastra also emphasized in these words, Praja Sukhe Sukham Ragya, Praja Nam Chite Hitam. As Musahari sir has rightly mentioned, if our people, if the citizens are happy, only then we can measure that how the government is functioning well and how the government agencies are reaching to the people for their betterment, for their upliftment, for their well-being. So these are the ancient, the things related to this. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, also articulated this challenge as the ending of poverty and ignorance and disease and inequality of opportunity. And these principles, many principles have also laid down under the Constitution of India also. Here, the United Nations has also fixed certain, the criteria for good governance, and it has been mentioned under United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific region. The good governance has 8 characteristics. I'm not going to, describe all the characteristics here. It is there. You can very much find. I will share my presentation also, but just you have to focus on participation, how people are actually participating in the administrative process, whether they have the freedom to form any association and express their ideas. These all should be taken care of. Rule of law, how far it is being implemented, enforced impartially, especially on human rights laws related to the country. Many of times we are abusing our laws. Whatever law has been created by the Britishers, still we are adhering all these, the things in our modern society. So whether it is strengthening our society or not, it is also a big question. Then consensus oriented, people must be knowing all the things. A common minimum can be achieved by everyone, which will not be detrimental to anyone. Then equity and inclusiveness, good governance ensure an equitable society. Unless or until we have not equitable society, then we cannot have a good governance. Then effectiveness and efficiency, how the administration is functioning, whether it is effectively doing the work for the maximum output or not, we have to look at on these all things. Then accountability. Yes, this is very important, accountability and transparency, as because good governance aims towards the betterment of the people. So governmental institution, whether it is or the private sectors or the civil society organization, should be held accountable to the public and the institutional stakeholders. No one can be spared. Then transparency. Transparency is very important. Unless or until there is no transparency, then anything can be done by anyone. And responsiveness. These all are the criteria which has been fixed by the United Nations for Asia and Asia Pacific. Here, perspective on development and governance, I would like to mention few aspects related to it, as because this perspective on innovations made us defensive, sometimes judgmental, and look for perfection. In the process, what we missed was the times when we should have experimented ignorantly to create something unique for ourselves. So we have to think about it also. I'm not going to discuss the international outlook regarding perspective of governance and related to governance. But the important aspects of governance related to an excessive focus on service delivery of materials or tangible ignored and downplayed the human touch required to go with the other progress indicators. So here, it was not only the unsustainable, but created a rush for imbalanced consumption. The Planning Commission, I mean Niti Aayog at the moment, that owes the process for developing the Human Development Index could have created a multiple level collaboration with departments of human resources, industries, agriculture, education, health adoption on similar codes of conduct for the stakeholders in development like businesses, industry, and civil society institutions to evolve their own approaches and means to make their specific statement on how each sector and component of economy is ultimately improving the quality of life as a whole. Here we have to think about our people, the common people, the mass people. you see, management of resources must be on equal basis. So leadership is also very important in governance. Unless or until we have not effective leadership, then we cannot say that we have a good governance. The process of governance and leadership must focus on building technical and social capabilities to foresee, accept, and remove obstacles to good governance. This perspective would have to be generated through a process of trial and error using participatory mechanism, diverse from inclusion, various modes of collaboration and reconciliation, where a practice on conflict resolution sets is a way of life. The panchayata and the ward samitis in urban areas would be ready platform to enable these processes of maturation in governance by the first resolving everyday problems. Unless or until we are not having these all, then we cannot say. Here there are certain examples of United States of America that how they are going to have a good governance through e-governance, as because e-governance is an important step for good governance, and it is not only enables technology to accelerate transaction, but it creates an opportunity to do away with the number of outdated mechanism based on centralized control and usher in empowerment of the local authority to serve to common citizens more directly. Here we can say that also we are moving ahead on the pattern of e-governance and direct benefit transfer to the people, but a lot we have to do to achieve the target. Now coming to our country, India, what initiatives we have taken for good governance. So here our guest of honor has mentioned certain aspects, but I would like to focus few more aspects here, like right to information. This was a welcome step towards the good governance when right to information has been incorporated as a part of law under the Article 19 of Constitution of India. Here, RTI Act 2005 marks a significant shift in the Indian democracy. It gives greater access to the citizens to the information, which in turn improves the responsiveness of the government to community needs. So it promotes openness, transparency, accountability in administration by making the government more open to public security. Another thing that is e-governance, as I was mentioning there, I have already mentioned, then you can say that e-governance must be proactive governance and timely implementation. For example, here in India, we have a Pragati Digital India program and many more. Here I would like to mention that e-governance is also the need of the time, where you can give certain benefits directly to the stakeholders of the society. But in this context, the legal reforms is very much pertinent, as because the central government has scrapped nearly 1,500 obsolete rules and laws with an aim to bring about the transparency and improve efficiency. But still, we have to do a lot in this regard. Reform in criminal justice and procedural laws with focus on pre-institutions mediation. But here I would like to mention the many, the rules which were introduced, particularly related to Rajadroh, etc., are need to be, give certain inputs according to the modern things. The government has launched Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives, but unless or until it is not reaching to the poor people and at the ending point at the grassroots level, then only the catchword will not going to help us. Then decentralization. Decentralization, after passing 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, the local bodies were given certain autonomy, and the local people were given to be the part of administration so that they can learn a lot regard in relation to the administrative process at the local level. But still we have to do a lot in this regard. Police reforms, modernizing police forces, and implementation of Model Police Act of 2015. This is also very important. And regarding FIR lodging mechanism, it is still very difficult, and the government is introducing filing FIR. At many cases, we are found that the marginalized people, the poor people are not able even to file their FIR before the police stations. So these are totally against, the concept of good governance. Now the Niti Aayog is focusing to improve the quality of the state while giving certain priority to the aspirational districts program. This aspirational district programs it was launched in January 2018 to transform the life of people in the underdeveloped areas of the country in a time-bound manner. And Niti Aayog is working on it, and we are also giving a lot of data to the Niti Aayog from our state also. Now the challenges, what are the challenges which we are facing to good governance? That is criminalization of politics. You see, many laws has already been launched and that are in practice, but still, if you will find, our many politicians indulge in the criminal activities. And according to Association of Democratic Reforms, 43% of the members of Parliament of Lok Sabha 2019 are facing criminal charges. It is a 26% increase as compared to 2014. So the criminalization of political process and unholy nexus between politicians, civil servants, and the business houses are having a beneficial influence on public policy formulation and governance. So the political class as such is losing respect. Therefore, it is necessary to amend Section 8 of the Representation of People's Act 1951 to disqualify a person against whom the criminal charges that relate to the grave and heinous offences and corruption are pending. So these are the things. As Musahari sir has mentioned, corruption is rampant, and corruption is a major obstacle in improving the quality of governance, while human greed is obviously a driver of corruption. It is the structural incentives and poor enforcement system to punish the corrupt that have contributed to the rising curve of a graft in India. So according to Corruption Perception Index 2019, India's ranking has slipped from 78 to 80. It means the corruption is still rampant in our administrative system. So growing incidence of violence is also one of the obstacle in the path of good governance, and it becomes clear that peace and order is the first step to development. Unless or until we have not peace and order in our society, we cannot move forward for development. Delaying justice, as it has rightly been said, being a student of political science, we are studying justice delayed is justice denied. So still a lot of seats are vacant in the different high courts and Supreme Court of India. And you see, these are hampering the distribution of justice and imparting justice to aggrieved people. Then centralization of administration system. All the time we are talking about a federation, whether we have a true federation of no, we have a cooperative federation in our country or not. Even during the time of COVID-19, this is a catchword and much debated issues in our country. So we have to think on that aspects also. And marginalization of socially and economic backward people. Though many initiatives have been taken by the government. Many provisions are there to protect the marginalized people like SC and STs. But although they are constitutional provision for their upliftment, but in practice they are lagging behind in so many areas like education, economy, well-being, etc. So we have to think on that aspect also. Then probity in governance. Probity is a quality of having a strong moral principles. So moral principles is a basic requirement for good governance. It includes having integrity, uprightness, and honesty. It is not just being incorruptible and honest, but also includes a strict adherence or to a code of ethics. So these are the things in our ancient, the literature under the writing of Plato and John Stuart Mill. These things have been there. I'm not discussing all these things, but here I would like to mention that objective of probity in governance to ensure accountability in governance, to maintain integrity in public services, to ensure compliance with the process, whatever process is suggested to us. Here I would like to mention, so if we want to have a good governance, then we must have a strong mindset how we can achieve these all targets. Our civil society must be strong. I do believe the whatever words has been told by Musahari sir, that we must have a human values, we must have a strong public opinion, we must have a strong civil society, we must have the fourth pillar of democracy, I mean media, a very strong media, so that they can perform the duty properly. Unless or until we don't have these all things, then we cannot have a good governance, and we cannot talk about a governance mechanism. Here I would like to mention the Chandler Good Governance Index, CGGI 2021 report. Under this report, here the CGGI is the world's most comprehensive index of governance quality and outcomes. And the CGGI has index is made up of 34 indicators. I'm not going to give you all 34 indicators here, which are organized into important main 7 pillars. I would like to mention here these all 7 pillars of the good governance as suggested by Chandler. That is leadership and foresight, robust laws and policies, strong institutions, financial strongness, attractive marketplace, global influence and reputation, helping people rise. And so these first 6 pillars related to the 6 realms of the government capabilities, and the final pillar, I mean helping people rise, focus on the key outcomes of good governance that help create opportunity and prosperity. And if we talk about the rank of India, India has been ranked 49th in the Chandler Good Governance Index 2021 with the index score of 0.516 among 104 countries in terms of government capabilities and outcomes. Here I would like to mention top of and bottom country. I will not mention all the countries. So the top 5 countries are Scandinavian countries like Finland on rank 1, Switzerland rank 2, Singapore rank 3, Netherlands rank 4, Denmark rank 5. And the bottom 5 countries are Mali rank 100, Mozambique rank 101, Nigeria rank 102, Zimbabwe rank 103, Venezuela rank 104. If we compare with our neighboring countries, China is at rank number 41. And the headquarters of this Chandler Institute of Governance is located at Singapore. So I have quoted the source taken from the Chandler Government Index.com 2021. So here still we have to do a lot to achieve the target of governance. So Here I would like to mention that proper implementation of the different attributes of the governance like accountability, impartiality, transparency, responsiveness, rule of law, etc., improve the quality of governance. And it is really very important on the part of government to analyze its works thoroughly and to improve it whenever necessary. Unless or until we are not, adjudging ourselves, introspecting ourselves, reviewing our policies and programs, then we cannot have good governance. So there is a need to eliminate interference in the delivery of services. It is also necessary to adopt non-discretionary approach towards the decision making. And particularly here, I would like to mention that good governance, especially for development, will demand a new level of understanding, education, and order that will be a self-imposed discipline of one kind. In anticipation, in being proactive in self-regulation lines, the essence of good governance for value-based development that involves the ultimately cares for the people. So the people is very important under the concept of good governance. So here I stop my deliberations, and being a student of political science, rather I would happy to hear certain viewpoints from our participants, fellow participants, and the learned faculty members who are with us. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be with you and share my certain ideas with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, our resource person, Dr. A.K. Mishra, sir, for your valuable deliberation. And I'm sure that all the participants, including me, we are all have been benefited from your very vast concept of good governance in India. Actually, this topic is very important. We have very slightest knowledge regarding good governance, but today I come to know the various determinants, various elements of good governance, and how good governance is related to RTI, how the Atmanirbhar Bharat, we can build Atmanirbhar Bharat on the proper concept of good governance. Actually, regarding good governance, various concepts, various interrelated things are connected closely. So it is very difficult to analyze all the things in a very short period of time. But sir, you have mentioned many things. I'm very grateful to you. And now I want to request our IQSC coordinator, Dr. Rana Para, who is also a moderator of today's webinar, to continue the interactive session. If our participants have some doubts, they want to add some more concept with this sir's deliberation, then they can ask, they can clear their doubts. So I want to request Dr. Rana Bara, please conduct the interactive session.
Thank you, Shivani, madam. I would like to thank, at first, I would like to thank our honorable resource person, sir, as well as our guest of honor, sir. Resource person, sir, deliberate a lot of things regarding the good governance. He also rightly mentioned that in case of from top to bottom, there is good governance is essential for the development of a country as well as for a particular region. So if I like to request our participants, if you have any questions and if you would like to add some more points, then you can ask a question directly, or you may put in chat box. I'll put the question before our research person. Sir, from my end, since they will ask the question from my end, I would like to put one question, sir. So since you are associated with the higher education sector for a long time, I would like to ask a question regarding the good governance in higher education system. Sir, I'd like to request you to say a few lines on the good governance in higher education institution. Since it is emphasized by the NAAC expedition, good governance is very much essential for higher education. you have, since we have mentioned the different aspects, it's e-governance and also transparency of the institution and government also. So I'd like to request us to say a few lines on this higher education system.
Okay, very nice question you have raised. You have asked question and you have answered well. Also, you have given the answer whatever you have asked. But in higher education, yes, e-governance is very much important at the moment, and it is one of the important criteria while assessing by the NAC. And we have to give more focus to the learners. Always the learners should be given an opportunity to assess the teaching, the teachers, etc. This is also the part, as because unless or until we have not transparency in our academic system also, then we cannot have a good governance in higher education. So transparency and participation not from the faculty, participation from the students also, they should be given certain priority, and we have to assess our whatever program we have chalked out the academic calendar for the universities and the colleges. We have to regularly, the revisit all the program initiated by us to implement in the higher education sector. Here I would like to mention, under National Education Policy 2020, many of the universities have already adopted the choice-based credit system. This is also a way forward towards the transparency, where the students, I mean learners, were given an opportunity. But still a lot of problems are related to this, the implementation of choice-based credit system at the college or university level, as because we have a limited number of faculty, and unless or until we don't have adequate faculty to fulfill the needs of our learners, then it may create a lot of problems. And we have a consensus orientation of our teaching faculty and the other stakeholders. These are the way forward towards the betterment of any higher educational institution. So thank you very much for your question and your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello,
One
hello,
question.
sir.
Yeah, please.
Hello, sir. Myself, Dr. Anita Das. Sir, thank you for your thought-provoking speech. Sir, I have a simple query regarding India, and is there any connection between good governance and democracy index? As our Prime Minister statement regarding more governance, less government. Is it a reality or myth? As we know that recently India's democratic index, it's declining. It's became a partially free.
It's true.
So, sir, my question is that is the less governance just a myth, or there's an initiative taken by our government to make our whole governance system more vibrant and more transparent and more accountable? So my next question is there any connection between governance and democratic index? So two questions.
Yes, governance and democracy index are correlated things. Here, I would like to mention whatever query you have, we have slept already. As I have mentioned you, in transparency, in governance, our ranking is decreasing. Our Honorable Prime Minister has mentioned about the more governance and less government. But very recently, when the cabinet is reshuffled and more, the incorporation of the new ministers is also a big question on his statement that whether we are moving ahead towards the more governance and less government. So this is a question mark. And here I cannot make any political statement, but you are very much right that we have to do a lot in this regard. Even very recently, 2-3 days back, one scam, that is Pegasus, we are having this issue, and this create a havoc in our country. All the times we cannot stop the voice of the opposition, This is very much important in a democracy. If you cannot hear the voice of opposition in democracy, then how we can imagine a good governance? This is also a very important issue, and I do believe that these all issues must be, think seriously by the government. If we want to have a better governance, good democracy in our country, then we have to give liberty to the other pillars of the democracy. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, myself, Menazulution Borholla from Borholla College, Department of Political Science. Sir, my query is that, do you think that the present government of India is an authoritarian type of government for which the delivering of good governance is not up to date as per expectation?
There are certain things we can say that the government has initiated, like as I have told you, that e-governance, direct benefit transfer, and responsiveness. These all things have been initiated by the government. But as I have mentioned just now, that still we have to do a lot in this regard to achieve our targets. Unless or until we have not openness in our administration, we have not accountability, then we cannot, and effectiveness and efficiency of administration, then we cannot imagine about the good governance. So these all things are related with it, and though the government has moving forward, but I believe that still we have to do a lot in this regard.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, one more query is there from in chat box. Maniram Gogoi from Crescent College. You want to know how can we should involve students in education institution for good governance of the institution? Is it really applied to in our student?
Yes, in certain universities, I think that particularly the senior students are giving their feedbacks about the administration, about their faculty members, I mean about their teachers, and even in many committees nowadays the students are being involved, the students are given the priority. But all the time I also believe that sometimes we are prejudiced and biased, and even the students union are involved. So if we have a more politics, then we cannot achieve any set target. But I do believe that students or their representatives should be given their proper place in all the committees, so that they can put forward their grievances before the authority, and it is towards the good governance. And because if we are not getting the feedback from the recipients, then how we can improve ourselves? So to improve ourselves, to improve our institution, whether it is a college or a university, we should give that opportunity to the student. This is my opinion.
Some technical error is there. Okay, sir.
Yes. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir,
Very
yes, sir.
audible.
Yeah, please. I want to have some inputs from our Musahari sir too, as because I love to learn from him also. Sir, this is my humble request to you to give certain inputs.
Okay, sir. So, sir, from my parts, whatever you have spoken, it is exclusive. So nothing left for me to speak. So you have touched from the ancient to the modern. So about the good governance. So what are the process? What are the criteria? How to achieve? So good governance in the ancient, actually it was much more better than the modern, so
yes,
to say.
Yes.
Because
yes,
earlier we have less corruption.
Yeah,
Now
yes,
we
sir.
have more corruption and less delivery.
Yes, sir.
So that is what I have seen in most of the cases that we used to run here and there. Especially being a teacher, sometimes if even the peon used to ask for a cup of tea, and it is a very costly if you want to give a cup of tea in the office. So if a cup of tea can cost around 1,000 to several lakhs. So we are losing all our ethics.
Yes,
We
yes,
teach our students about transparency, ethics, ethos, etc.
yes, sir.
But sometimes I used to feel what we have taught to our students. So we are not doing our justice also, because we are unable to make human beings. So sometimes I used to feel that certain extremist leaders like Prabhakaran, they are much more capable enough to teach their cadres about responsibility. Even
Yes.
they are dare to die to perform their
Yes.
responsibility.
Yes,
But being a
yes.
teacher, when you are asked for a delivery of goods and services, which she or he was supposed to do, and you have to offer a cup of tea. So being a teacher, we find it very difficult, and the quarrel takes place. So this kind of things takes place in reality. Although I did not touch much of this theoretical perspective. So
Yes.
you have touched all from theories to practical to how to achieve it. So it's a very nice deliberation, sir. It's inclusive. You have covered everything. So only thing is that we have to change ourselves. We have to change from the family, because family is also a kind of governance.
Yes, 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 yes.
So how family will be run, either by only father, or only the parents, or even the children will have a say. So it will depends on the family. So governance starts from the family.
Yes.
So and it spreads to society, to state, to district, to the nation, and to the world. So that is how I feel governance is part and parcel of each and every individual. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your inclusive delivery.
If
And
any
thank for the
participant,
organizers also for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of
Thank
a
you,
very learned professor. Thank you. Thank you very
sir.
much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I am the part of administration, sir. So I must appreciate the efforts of Jogen Das ji, who always invited me, and at least I can do certain academic exercise. So really, I'm very much happy to be the part of this academic discourse, sir. Thank you very much. If any participants have any query, any argument, they are welcome. Please.
Please raise your questions. Yeah, if you any questions or want to add something to our honorable resource person, sir. I think there is no more question. Now I'd like to over to Shivani Fukon, madam.
Just I would like to once again I would like to thank the Department of Political Science, Borholla College, Jorhat, for organizing this wonderful academic exercise, and really I am very much happy to be with all of the learned people of Assam at the moment. And sir, I would like to tell you that in the month of March we have organized one Northeast NSS festival, and in have also participated at Itanagar. So really, I'm very much grateful to the principal, the organizer, Jogen Das ji, and other members of this organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to be with you in this academic discourse. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rana Bara, moderator and IQSC coordinator of Borholla College, for handling or conducting this interactive session. And thank you very much, our resource person, Dr. Mishra sir and Musahari sir, for your deliberation and clearing the doubts of our participants. Now, I want to request Farida Begum Baido, Assistant Coordinator as well as Assistant Professor of Department of Political Science, Borholla College, to give the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please deliver your vote of thanks.
Thank you, Shivani. Good evening to all. Myself, Farida Begum, Assistant Professor of Borholla College and Assistant Coordinator of the webinar. It is our great pleasure that ultimately we are successfully moving towards in part of the webinar. Good governance in India, challenges and prospects. It is the title of the webinar organized by Department of Political Science, Borholla College, Jorhat, in collaboration with Center for Studies and Research, and second attempt from Political Science Department of our college as an intellectual practice amidst the becoming deadlocked environment. As per webinar agenda, at this moment, at the very outset, from Department of Political Science, we offer our gratefulness to our Honorable Principal to give opportunity to organize this webinar, and many thanks for inaugural speech. We highly appreciate our research person, Dr. A.K. Mishra, Professor of Political Science, and State Nodal Officer, NSS, Director of Higher and Technical Education, Government of Arunachal Pradesh, for his informative and precious speech. We are highly grateful to Organizing Secretary Dr. Dipen Das taking all initiative for this intellectual practice. We also offer heartiest thanks to guests of our Dr. J. Sahari Sir, Head of the Department of Political Science, Bodoland University, Fukurazar, of this webinar for his valuable speech. Participants are the central point of any program. Without participants means a fruitless attempt, but considering the number of participants, we may proudly say that it is a successful webinar, so offered our gratefulness to our participants. Many thanks to technical assistant Dr. Jugesh Das of his valuable assistance, and Dr. Rana Bora, coordinator of IQAC of Borholla College, also moderator of this webinar for their technical support and moderation. Many thanks to our departmental head, Dr. Shivani Phukon, for her smooth functioning of this webinar. At last, we offer our heartfelt gratitude to all of our colleagues for their valuable advice and cooperation. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Farida Begum Baido, for your vote of thanks. And now we are reached at the conclusion part of our webinar. And I hope that our participants, our members of organizing committee, we all have been benefited by the deliberations that made by our guest of honor, by our resource person, sir, and the question setters who have asked questions in the interactive session. So personally, from my side, I thank you all, and especially I thanks the participants, because without their participation, the webinar is meaningless. The webinar has been organized to learn something. As Musahari sir rightly said, that there is a vast difference between theory and practice. Good governance is very good to hear, but in theory, but in practically, if we practice it, it is quite difficult to practice the concept of good governance. So I have firm belief that our participants and we all have been benefited from today's webinar. So I am going to end this webinar, and thank you very much once again. And special thanks to Dr. Dipen Das, Dr. Jugesh Das, Dr. Rana Bora, Miazul Hussain Bordola sir, Farida Begum Baido, for smooth organizing this webinar. So thank you very much. We hope.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
We'll get both of you, Musahari sir and Mishra sir,
in near future in our virtual platform. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.